I'm with Jim and Katie Kelly today. I can't wait to get going. You will see why. And as we always do, the word of the day that I've chosen for this podcast is the word excellence. I'll tell you, I've taken that word out to deep ocean. I think we could literally talk about that word for hours, just that word, because I think it means something different to every person. But to me, it's being on point and intentional and doing your absolute very best with every piece of life. Your very best, your personal best is always the measure. I think about how people think, well, yeah, relative excellence is relative. It's what it is to one person is different than another, and I agree with that. But on point, intentional, and giving it your very, very best effort. We have a young guy that has just started with us. As a matter of fact, maybe this very, very podcast wouldn't be happening without his expertise, because he's truly gifted with all things sound, all things photography, all things lighting, all things internet platforms, social media, all of those sorts of things. But coming into the hangar, where this has sort of been Ryan and Mai's domain for a lot of years, we have a way of doing things. And there's this saying, see it, do it. See it, do it. If you see anything that needs being done that isn't in its excellent fashion, don't walk by it, do it, right? I think that's been a little bit of a boot camp for Jorge. But he learns quick the good idea. It's like we make a big deal of like, oh my God, Ryan, come here, look, there's a dish in the sink. I know it's not yours. I know it's not mine. I wonder how it flew here, how it ended up here. Oh my God, Jorge, grab a camera, take a picture of this sink in this dish in the sink. You know, this very exaggerated, like, there's a standard here. Excellence is a standard. It's a personal standard, and in your environment, in your life, in your business, you have a standard. Here's the problem I have with excellence, is that when you set this standard and you let it be known, you're accountable to it. And that's the challenge, is that I don't meet my own standards most days. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't have standards. Okay, there's our word for the day. That's our segue into this. I want to start by just asking the question of how you were raised, and how this entrepreneurial, this driven entrepreneurial bent, how did that grow? How did that happen from your raising? Or was this a departure from the way you've raised? I want to hear some history about your lives when you're young that brought you to be these amazing entrepreneurs.
You want to start?
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
So I guess it all started, my grandma and my mom are from Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were able to leave Vietnam the day that the airport was bombed. And when my grandma came here, my grandpa passed away from cancer, so she was raising 6 kids on her own, didn't know English, yet she managed to buy 3 rental properties, put all the kids through college. And I think that just opened the door for my mom and my dad to see that. And so it's just been passed down. My parents had teriyaki restaurants, so I grew up in the restaurant business, where it's like you say, you see it, you do it. Same thing. Like, I was trained very early on. When we go to the restaurant, we load soda cans. All of the labels had to be perfectly out. We had to fill the candy, we had to fill the sauce, roll egg rolls. It was just like whatever we could do, we had to fill it.
Right.
Then once that was done, then we could go play. And then we had rentals. So when we would go to a property, we'd pick up trash on the side of the sidewalk and the properties, and we'd paint, we'd do evictions, move-ins, move-outs. Like, I was just exposed to that very early on and through my whole life. So I have that eye when I go in. It's like I'm looking at those things where maybe normal people wouldn't. Does the toilet flush? Does the drain?
Right.
And then just as a kid, I was put to ballet, swimming, karate, piano. And so I was trained that I had to have a schedule. I had discipline. I had to figure out how to make it all work and still be excellent in school. Like, it was a non-negotiable. Like, I had to get straight A's. I had to make it in college. I had to do all these things on top of all of my fun things, which then there was a turning point where ballet started. It needed to be 6 days a week. So I had to pick, what am I going to drop? Or do I like swimming, or do I like rhythmic gymnastics? So my love for dance, and I think that's a later question, but that has really helped me with the discipline as well, just to where I am today.
You witnessed structure,
Yeah.
intentionality. You witnessed discipline. But I also think you just said it. You were encouraged to be aware. Like, notice what needs being done, and this comes first. To me, I could take this one concept and just run with it. First things first. First things first. How do you get up in the morning and venture off into your day without certain things being done? There's an admiral, I wish I could just quote his name, that does this famous speech. I think it's a commencement speech on make your bed. Make your bed and do it right. So that if everything else in the day goes wrong, you're going to come home to something you did right, something that's excellent, and you can see it. You've done it. It's there. It's first things first. The organization, the effort. Are we ready now to go to the next thing? I think those basic structures are just in many ways missing, and you were given those structures and encouraged to do so. That's amazing. Jim, what about you in terms of this entrepreneurship, in terms of how you live your life? Where was the hard drive? How did it happen?
For me, I'm the youngest of 5 and the only boy, and so I was my dad's sidekick at a very young age, and he called it half moon driving when he was a small boy, and I called it half moon driving when I was young. But basically, I learned how to drive where I could just see this top of the steering wheel and the dashboard and see right through there and keep my eyes on the road and just reach the pedals. So I had just a really high expectation for performance as a very young boy, and grew up in the right seat of a 180, Cessna 180, flying all over Alaska, and being born and raised in cold country. There's no room for error in those circumstances. So you have to have exit strategies with every day. You have your matches, but if you run out of matches, it's not, oh, we'll just go to the store and get some. It's, you're not coming home.
Right.
And so how long do you go trying to get your fire started before you have to reheat the airplane and get the heck out of Dodge? If you fall through the ice, what's your exit strategy? How do you get warm? What do you do next? So that, I was never in Boy Scouts, but I do pretty well in the woods.
Be prepared.
Right, be prepared.
Is a motto, whether you were in Boy Scouts or not.
That's right.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and so the entrepreneurial spirit really was ingrained in me through my upbringing with my dad, and having pride of ownership in everything that we do, and not being so much worried about what the other guy's doing, but being really passionate about what we are doing as a family. And I remember a lot of hindsight thoughts of how I was raised. It was, okay, are you going to spend the day digging a hole or digging a ditch because the ditch needs to be dug, or are you going to go get paid hourly wage to work a job? And it was, no, we're going to dig a ditch because that's what needs to get done. And I remember those opportunity costs in my mind were weighed, as I couldn't imagine my dad not allowing me to go earn money. Why does he want me to do this? Well, it's for the family. It's for moving forward, and those pay dividends. And just that hard work was really instilled early on.
You know, that's a interesting concept at a young age. It's a very, very adult, high level business concept. As I blessed to work with people in business, the idea of everything you do, it may be great, but what's it displacing? What could you be doing? You know, is this your highest and best use? Is this the priority of your objective? We all have 24 hours a day. It's the great equalizer, right? There's no making more of that. And so the highest and best use of what you do in that time, how you do or don't do, is a big deal. It's a really big deal. And I think in terms of very important CEOs who hire consultants to come in and shadow their day, looking for 5 minutes, looking for 10 minutes, because that 5 and 10 minutes on point can make the difference between a company's profits or losses. It's really gets down to that sometimes. And so those are amazing concepts to be handed you. The fact that you used an airplane in Alaska to get to so many places, grew up in the right seat of a 180. I mean, that's not a normal statement. But it also talks about that this is equipment that you're using, that every time you fire it up and take the wheels off the Tundra, your life depends on the fact that that equipment is well maintained, it's well thought out, it's, you know, and so it's not just like a car that, it blew up and I pull over the side of the road and call AAA. It's a whole different deal. And I think that attention to keeping your affairs in order, keeping your equipment in order, having backup equipment and tools with you wherever you go, that preparedness, you know, doesn't this apply to everything that we talk about in business? You show up with a client, you have an intention, you want to buy their real estate, you want to be involved in some sort of policy that you're working. Well, do you have your forms? Do you have your laptop? Are you able to move things along? Because if you have to reset another meeting for something you could have been prepared for, I don't know, these basic elements of hard drive, they're serving you. I absolutely believe they're serving you. And you're blessed by these examples, I think. I too had amazing examples of work ethic, of preparedness, of do it right, do it once. And those very elements, there's no question, have served me. Katie, you started, but I want you to elaborate on, both of you sort of have given hints to what has turned out to be a big part of the passion part of life. Your love for dance being one of those things. Talk to me about your world of dance, when it started, how it's still ongoing. It's become a big, big part of you and your passion, so I want you to talk about it.
So I started because my cousin started dancing, and my mom was like, "Hey, do you want to try?" Yes. Mm-hmm. And I remember she actually tells me the first time she dropped me off and saw me in class, I just had a huge smile. And she never had to force me to go. It was like, I can't wait to go. Mm-hmm. And that's when I knew I loved it. Mm-hmm. And it started at a small studio twice a week, and then it grew into, I had to audition to make it into Pacific Northwest Ballet. My small studio teacher was like, she has outgrown the studio. She needs to go somewhere else. She needs to be around the best so she can grow. So my mom said, okay, let's audition. And I had done gymnastics at the time, and I had torn a ligament in my ankle. And you're supposed to start point at whatever age, I think 11.
Point, is this when you get
Point
up on your toes? Okay.
Yeah. So I was delayed. Like I couldn't do it because of this injury. And being like any athlete, I just kept postponing it because I couldn't just sit on the sidelines. I'd try to dance and ruin another part of my body. So it took a good 1.5 2 years for this ligament to heal. But in the meantime, I'm starting this Pacific Northwest Ballet, and they're like, does she do point? I'm like, yes. And I just had to figure out my way, and I was a year or two behind. But I just remember, like, I have to be in this school. And it's just the best training. It turned from 2 days to 6 days to 7 days a week. We got to perform in the Nutcracker, Swan Lake, just really extraordinary at the McCall Hall, which used to be the Opera House, and it just was awesome. And it's just turned into a huge part of my life. I majored in biology at the U, thinking I wanted to do pre-med, and I knew I hated it, like halfway in, but dance was my piece. So I minored in dance, and I just remember doing the labs and like, okay, I can make it through this because I'm going to go dance after this.
Your reward was to go dance.
Exactly. Like being in the studio, that's just my piece. And so I went to audition. I performed with Alvin Ailey, and they're like my favorite company. And I was like, Mom, I want to go and dance in New York. And I was 20. And my mom was like, no. Like, where are you going to live? What are you going to do? How are you going to pay for this? And I figured out a way. Like, when you want something, you're going to make it happen. So my dance teacher had a friend that she danced on Broadway with, who I got to stay with. And I flew and auditioned for the last scholarship spot. So everything was paid for. And then I found a roommate who graduated from the U with me in the dance world. So I was like, Mom, I have all of these things. And on top of that, she was like, no, you're staying with a guy. Like, I don't trust a guy. I'm like, Mom, come on. So I just made it work, and it just was amazing. And I remember coming back, and I wanted to dance, and I had 1 year left of university, and she was like, no, I will disown you if you do not finish school. So I remember sitting at the beach, just in tears. What am I going to do? Am I going to follow my passion or do the logical school route? And I ended up doing the school route, but I don't regret it at all. Like, I've just had so many opportunities. Like the path that I chose, I got to dance with Baryshnikov. I was a seagull. I traveled the world on cruise lines and part of the musical world. So it's just been an awesome
That's such
ride.
a departure when all of this leading up, at least in my mind, I don't know the world of dance well, but all this formal training in ballet and New York and Broadway and all seems ballet-esque, and then you just sort of quickly through, and then you're a seagull. Well, an NFL cheerleader is not, I don't think, ballet. So all kinds of dance was your passion. Didn't matter what form?
It didn't matter, and I have the mindset of, one of my friends was like, Katie, they're holding auditions for Seahawks. And at first, the anti-me was like, nope, I am not a cheerleader. I've never cheered. And then the next day she'd be like, we dance. We just hold palms. I'm like, yeah, the hair. I can't do the hair. I would just have this comeback every day. And she's like, don't worry. They do your hair. I don't know how to do the makeup. Just every little thing. And then finally she's like, just think of it as a free class. Just go to the audition. It's like, okay, I can do that. Like, I will just try. So I went and I made all the different cuts. It's like 500 down to 250, down to 100, down to 32. And I'm one of the 32. And I show up to practice. I'm like, what am I doing here? I remember going to the first game. I'm like, holy cow. Like, I've never watched, I have watched a football game, but Dad would just call out different things. I'm like, it is a different language. Like, I don't know what is going on. And I remember cheering, and the other gals were like, not cheering right now, Katie. That was for the other side. And I was like, me. Like, I had just no idea. I would look to the other people to be like, do I cheer now? And they're
Right.
like, yes.
Did we do a good thing?
Yeah, I'm like, okay. But throughout the years, I did it for 2 seasons. I'm like, okay, so now I know what's going on. Like, now I love the games. Like, I understand. But there was a test. Like, we would have, it was like football 101 test for the ladies. And we had to like take a test to know what was going on. And I remembered like bombing it the first season. And then the second, I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing
I think
now.
I got it.
Yeah.
So Jay-Z always brags that he said no to the Super Bowl. Like, he was invited to perform, and in some of his lyrics he says that he said no to the Super Bowl. Well, Katie said no to the Super Bowl. She was supposed to dance, and
So I also was in pageants. So I did the Miss Chinatown USA.
same weekend as the Super Bowl.
Yeah, the Super Bowl, right? It's like if so-and-so loses and we win, and just all the different things, and all of it aligned to us winning. And it was the same day. It was the next day, because the pageant was on Saturday and Super Bowl was on Sunday. And I'm like, what do I do? And it's this 2-week commitment to represent Washington in San Francisco at this national USA pageant. And so I said no to the Super Bowl. I held true to my commitment with the Chinatown pageant and saw that through. And that was the first time we made it to Super Bowl. And had we won, we would have gotten a Super Bowl ring and they would have given me one, but we didn't win. So
It's a good story, though.
yeah, it is a good story.
It is a good
Yeah.
story.
So,
You know, I think that this idea of dance not only being a passion, it's led you to all sorts of things, but that it's also been like a safety valve. Like it's the offsetting for more challenging things. You know, biology, finishing school. You know, the hardcore production. That if you have something that is a reward, that might be my version of. After a long week, like, okay, I'm going to shut my brain off on everything, and I'm going to get in the plane, and I'm just going to fly to the San Juans, land, have a cup of coffee, and fly back. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. Just by myself, just because I just love it. I love it in a different way, and so to have something like that you've gone to forever, that you love that deeply, I think is part of what creates an offsetting balance to the challenges of life, that you've just got to do what you got to do because this is part of getting things done. You know, it's that reward, having that. What is your passion? What is it that you would just do for free? My brother has gone a long, long way in his career to the very, very top of the airline world. But I can remember him as a boy making runways and taxiways in the dirt. And while I was messing around, he would be designing airports and terminals and had planes on the runway. And from day one, the world of airlines was just his play toy. He just loved it. And he pursued it. And I don't know that he would ever say, for the most part, that 35 years in that industry was ever work for him. He just really loved it. It was like going to play in the dirt, only for real. And so that's a blessing, I think, when you got something you love that much. And Jim was, you know, you're raising flying, and I know it's still very much a part of your life, but flying, hunting, give me your passion. Look, where do you go to just take a deep breath and be in your space, your happiest space? Where does that?
Anything with a throttle.
Anything with a throttle.
Time on the river, just time in the woods. Leading with a servant's heart is really a passion that I can't escape. So when I'm in the woods, I am way more comfortable when I have someone to show around.
Right.
It's a joy for me to bring
Hosting.
Yeah, hosting.
You're hosting the woods. Yeah.
And so mine and Katie's relationship really started with showing each other our passions and being able to bring this Seattle beauty to Alaska and show her what I know.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, and it is my happy place, just being out in the woods and
Mm-hmm.
on the river. So.
And what a departure. I mean, I can just picture you taking Jim to New York and Jim taking you to Alaska, and like, okay, there's a tour guide here, and it's pretty obvious who's touring who, right?
Yeah, and it's really the yin and yang of our whole dynamic is really the kite and the string holder, and sometimes she's the kite and sometimes I'm the kite, and there's just different areas of passion and drive where combined it's really helped us thrive as parents and as husband and wife and business owners and entrepreneurs.
So let's segue to State Farm Insurance. How did that become such a big thing in both of your lives? How did that take me back to that? Because we'll evolve with this discussion, but let's start with, how does that come into play in your relationship?
Sure.
So coming back from dance, I was like, well, crap, now I need to do something. And I didn't know what to do. I majored in biology, minored in dance. So I was like, my parents do real estate, I'll get my real estate license. So I worked for Marcus and Millichap, specializing in apartment buildings, 5 to 500 units. And I just wanted to know the underwriting and just everything so I could help the family and do personal deals. And so I was doing that, loving it, because you control your output with your effort, right? I could work hard and I could, call all these property owners, get a listing, work hard, earn a lot of money. And so it was fun. I could set my own schedule. I was still dancing. I was just living a great life. And I was at a wedding reception for one of my girlfriends, and I was sitting next to his wife, or her husband. And he was like, his name's CJ. Katie, what are you doing right now? I'm doing real estate. I love it. It's great. It's this. He's like, you should do State Farm. I was like, hells no. Like, that sounds awful. That sounds boring. I don't even know what insurance is. No, thank you. And the entire night he goes, again, it was like seagulls. Katie, you love talking to people. You can run your own business. You can have your own team. You can help people. You're great at that. The next day, it's like, Katie, I set you up with a recruiter. Go meet with them. Act interested. Talk. Good questions. And let me know what you think. And after I met with him, I was like, this does seem interesting. And I did all the research and I was like, all right, I'm going to go for it. So I got licensed and then I opened a year and a half later.
Wow. Just somebody marrying you with what they knew about the business. They felt so confident that it fit who you were and what you were about, that they were that confident that they sort of pushed you toward this meeting and it clicked.
Yeah. And what's crazy is I call CJ like my angel, because State Farm has a convention every 3 years where they invite all 20,000 agents to Las Vegas, and it's like, here's what's going well, here are the new things that are rolling out. So I go to this thing in October, and I'm set to open in December. So I'm just this brand new agent that has no idea what's going on and just soaking everything in, taking notes. And he's texting me. He's like, Katie, you need to meet someone. I'm like, okay, great. I'm thinking networking, another agent, someone to help me out. Just the entire night he kept hounding, where are you? Where are you? Come and meet me. And like, I'm sitting over here, come meet us. And I brought my parents to this thing. So I'm sitting there eating with my parents. And Katie, this is Jim. Jim, this is Katie. You guys should talk. And then he's just entertaining my mom and dad. And I'm like, hi. And he had this plan. And we chatted for 20 minutes. And now we just celebrated our anniversary 2 days ago.
9 years.
9 years. Yeah. So it's just like he has this plan. And it's just, I'm like, CJ, what else,
Man.
And yeah. So that's just cool.
Providence. That's wild. So you opened your franchise, your office, your first State Farm office about 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've been married 9 years.
Oh yeah. So I opened in 11.
11 years
Yeah.
ago.
In 2011.
And Jim, you were already involved with State Farm. Obviously, you were at this convention,
Yes.
right? And your friend said, "Get over here,"
Right.
right? So what brought you to State Farm?
I was fresh out of college, and my dad was running for the House of Representatives, and he had never run for political office, and a group of 13 guys hogtied him and said that he was going to be the next representative. And so he calls me and said, "Hey, son, when you get back, we got a job for you. We need to get elected." So I ran his campaign, and never done that before, but I'm pretty good at talking with people, and he's not so good at the extrovert side. So we again, yin and yang. I really helped him work to get out of his. He was really shy. So anyway, he gets elected, and but prior.
He gets elected.
Yeah. So
there's that.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we prior to the election, though, he said, "You need to go down to State Farm. You got to sign some papers for your truck." And I keep getting hammered by Randolph, our friend and agent. He keeps hounding me to have you go down and sign something. And now, being an agent for 14 years, I know that is prime tactic to just get somebody in the chair in front of you, and
Right.
paper could probably be mailed to me. But anyway,
Right.
I didn't know any better, so I'm going down to State Farm, sit down, and okay, I'm here to sign something. And, "Oh yeah, here, sign this paper." "Okay, thanks." "You ever thought of working for State Farm?" And I said, "No, Jack, I haven't." And he said, "Well, you'd be a good State Farm agent." I said, You've been telling me that since I was a kid, so why would I be a good State Farm agent?" He's like, "Well, you know a lot of people, and we help a lot of people, and we make a lot of money." And I said, "Well, I just got done with college. I want to go into the investment world. I wanted to get my CFA and Chartered Financial Analyst certificate, and that was my path, and going to go on to get my master's. And I already had this figured out at 24 in my mind.
Like we all do.
Right. And so he said, "Well, Kelly, just give me 6 months. Get approved to be an agent, and this could all be yours." And so I said, "Okay." I'm running Dad's campaign. It was September, and so anyway, November 4th, whenever the election was, I dove in, got my licenses. January 1, I showed up fully licensed, and by March, I was an approved candidate for agency, and just dug in as a team member for him for 2 years, and really saw that I either needed to be an agent or move on with my career. And I went on to commercial lending for a couple years at a small community bank, and then a couple years with an investment advisory, small investment boutique, and got my Series 65. But in that short window from 2004 to 2009, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just a kid, but I was really setting myself up to be a very good business owner. I was getting experience as a team member for the industry that I didn't know I was going to end up going back into, and then commercial lending, and then investment advisory. So State Farm calls me on a Wednesday and said, "We've got an opportunity for you. It's in Juneau, Alaska." I said, "I've never been to Juneau." My dad was elected and living on a boat in Juneau during the political season, but I had never been there. I'd never gone to visit him, never been to our state capital. And I said, I don't really want to leave Fairbanks. This is home. And, well, if you leave Fairbanks, you take this agency, we'll give you a retiring book when somebody retires in Fairbanks. So that was the stage that was set for me. I said no. I said, I'm happy where I am. They said, well, if you say no, it's really not an opportunity that comes twice. So I said, well, let me think about it. So I prayed on it over the weekend, and Monday called back and I said, I'll take it. And opened up my agency in 2009. Went down there to visit Juneau for the first time in July. Put eyes on a commercial space, and they gutted it and built it out. By September 1, I opened. And what I didn't know about Juneau was when it's sunny out or the fish are hitting, nobody works. Like, the town shuts down. And if you're local, you know that. Well, I wasn't a local, and I'm little Fairbanks small town boy. I need this office space September 1st, and it's like GCI doesn't show up. Alaska Communications.
Don't worry about it, Jim.
Yeah.
Nobody's here.
No one's here. What's going on? It's sunny out. I mean, it's a great day to work. Well, everybody's fishing.
Yeah.
I mean, this was corporate, right down to the contractor, right down to the laborers. Like, no one's there. Well, then the rain comes and everybody pours it on, and they do 6 months of work in 6 weeks. And I opened September 1 and had a great 6 years in Juneau, and then made a full circle back to Fairbanks and opened a agency in Fairbanks. And Katie's book opened in 2011, so we dated long distance after that introduction in Vegas. We reconnected a couple weeks later, and that was that. We have never spent more than a week apart since then. And but anyway, State Farm, just getting into it was there, you couldn't. I mean, the same situation. You couldn't have convinced me I was going to be a State Farm agent when I was sitting in that chair at that office. But here I am.
And again, you know how my brain works. We know each other well. That I hear things like this, and I have to ask this is a metaphor for things like the thing that you least expected, the thing that you've disqualified. The thought of it, just no. The answer is no. I don't need to know anymore kind of response. I have learned that when I really get into it one-on-one with people, the first place we start is we're going to question everything. Everything you've concluded, we're going to bring it back up and let's talk about it, and I want to hear the conclusions. Everything you thought you knew, every bit of your hard drive and your belief systems, and have you really taken them to task? Because sometimes the gold mine is there and has been there, but somehow we've just blocked off that road. We've said, don't go there. That's not you. And yet other eyes said, oh, no. This would be perfect for you, and I'm setting a meeting up for you, and just try to be open-minded. And it's so interesting how sometimes a third-party perspective that hasn't built walls, that has seen, no, this road goes to some really great places. If you're just open and willing to try something. We had a rule at our dinner table that you will try everything. You'll try it. You'll eat it. Okay. If it's something you don't prefer, at least you've tried it, right? But to say, oh no, I would never eat that. It's like, no, we're going to try it right now. And you didn't argue with my dad, right? And I think it's the same way of just being open to, it's the thoughts you haven't thought. Isn't that the discovery we're looking for? What haven't you thought of? What you know what you think you know, but somebody famous, I wish I could tell you, help me. I think it's Mark Twain. It's something along the lines that says it's what you think you know for sure that's going to mess you up. It's that you're so sure you know this that you're not open to exploring. Yeah. I'll find that quote sometime and put it up, because it's that insight, that it's what you think you know for sure that usually is the roadblock that needs to be rethought on.
The same is true on the downside risk.
Yeah.
That'll never happen.
Absolutely.
What if?
Absolutely. Yeah. The looking at the engineering that you've always taken for granted. This will always work. This is always going to be that way. You sort of jokingly said, "Oh, I'm 24 and I've got this plan and I know it all." And didn't we all, And I think back and go, well, yeah, I had that plan and I should have just washed it down with a beer. You're right. Just eat the paper and
Right.
swallow, because it didn't work out that way.
I still don't have my master's.
Right. It just, and I believe that as you recognize that this journey is about growth and discovery, it's not always about predetermined destination. It's about being open to the possibilities you haven't even thought of. I have to insert one more little thing because it's so apropos. A gentleman that, gosh, blessing to know him. He was actually the CEO of Bank of America. Believe this or not, he took my classes at the university many, many years ago. And he was on the cover of Fortune magazine. I mean, he's a very, very, very awesome guy, very smart guy. He wrote some books. In his retirement, which started young, he became a traveling fool. I mean, 300 days a year, he was gone. So where's home when you're gone 300 days a year, right? But he would come back, and I would check in with him when he was back in the United States. But his traveling was extreme. Like he'd go live in the Amazon with the natives for 6 months. Or he would go to Calcutta, India, and live in a cardboard hut for 3 months. He would live in these cultures and spaces and places that were so extreme. And I sat him down. I said, Roger, why? I mean, this is like not normal. Why do you travel like this so much? And the soundbite of all sound bites, he said, Greg, I travel because I might be wrong. And I said, explain. And he said, well, we're raised this way. We have this menu. We have this climate. We have this surroundings. We have this religion, this philosophy, this culture. This is our menu. This is what we know. And just like a menu, you go, well, what do I want to do today? And you flip your 4 or 5 pages, and there it is. But he says, when I travel, my menu, my choices get much bigger. And I adopt pieces of philosophy, pieces of choice, pieces of priority from all these different places. And my life isn't all of our lives, Greg? The perfect life is like a personal best. We live the best of what we know. And he said, I just have seen a lot more, and therefore I think I make better personal choices on what to do and how to do it for me. And it made so much sense to me. And yet, isn't the base of that, the foundation of that thinking, being open? I might be wrong, or maybe better put, there's things I don't know. I'm open to seeing things I don't know. I'm opening to open doors that for some reason I've shut. I'm not completely sure why I've shut them, but I've shut them. But you both open these doors, and specific to this conversation, this door of State Farm Insurance, which I have to say, my reaction would be about the same. I got a life disability license simply because my dad was an insurance broker forever, and out of respect to him, I got it. And I sat there in his little office for about 2.5 months and said, not sure really what you do here, but I'm getting too antsy. I got to get out of here, But at least I felt like I opened the door, right? But you not only opened the door, this thing has worked out. And what I'm drilling down towards is that I'm so bad with time frames, but let's say in the last year, I think, we were in Las Vegas at a leadership conference. We were there together. And on that very same week, there was this State Farm conference there at the new stadium in Las Vegas where they rented the stadium for this event. I don't know exactly how many State Farm people in the country were there, but about how many were there?
20,000 agents. And
20,000
then
agents.
other employees.
But all the employees and team
Employees,
members
yeah.
are welcome too, and they split it in thirds, so they actually hold Vegas for 3 weeks straight.
But there was actually a day, and
That overlapped.
was the 100th birthday of State Farm. So we had that entire
Yeah.
stadium filled.
So they coordinated the 3 days so it overlapped on a day for each session.
Yeah.
And they had the whole stadium.
The whole stadium
Incredible.
filled
Yeah.
with State Farm people. And in that discussion of what was happening here and what was going on, of course, I think everybody's getting the demeanor of who you guys are, but it came to light in that conversation that Katie, that you were the number one State Farm agent in the State Farm system, in the world of life insurance. There's going from 500 to 250 to 125 to 32. That's extraordinary. That's amazing. But to go from 20,000 agents to one? All right, and Jim, you're like in the top 1% too, right? It's like, but I look at both of you and go, okay, all right, tell me about the back room. Tell me about the kitchen of strategy here. Tell me about, like, this isn't normal. I mean, number one in 20,000 agents, you know what I mean? That's not normal. And I'm not asking for, secret sauce or give away your secret weapon. And it's not that. It's just, what is that? What is the essence of how that happened in I guess what I would also view as a relatively short period of time, a decade-ish, a little more in this business. It's not like this is over 50 years. You've just done this. What's the secret sauce?
So it started in 2019. It was the last quarter, September, October, and we're looking at our numbers. And we're like, I need 30,000 more in premium to hit this next level. I'm sitting there like, I need 30,000. Like, why am I just dreaming about 30,000 just to hit? It's called exotic. I go, I want to be number one, like in the country. And I told him, he's like, yeah, do it. And so I started in dance. It's like before a show, when I know there's a show, I am constantly rehearsing the choreography in my head. When I wake up, when I go to sleep, when I'm resting, I am doing that step. I'm listening to the music. Like, I just know. And we've talked, and the term that we've come up is it's pre-flighting. It's visualizing it as if it's showtime when it's 3 months away. So I start visualizing being number one. Like, there's going to be a lot of dinners, a lot of parties. This is what I'm going to wear. We're going to show up. People are going to say, congrats, Katie. How do you do it? Oh my gosh, great. Down to the point where the award, my name is number one, Katie Kelly. Let's hear a few words from you. Mm-hmm. And that's when I'm like, I don't want to be number one. I don't want that. I want to be number two because I don't want to speak. Like, I can dance in front of millions, but to speak, just to like introduce myself and, hi, I'm Katie. I've been an agent for 10 years. Like, I am sweating. Like, I don't even know anybody's name because I'm not paying attention because I'm freaking out about what I need to say. So then I have to do this speaking. I'm like, no, I don't want to be number one. So I turned to Jim like, you be number one. I'm going to be number two. And so I'm dreaming about number two. And that next year, out of 20,000 agents, I turn out to be number two. Jim's number 3. You didn't visualize number 1. So we're number 2 and 3. And that's the moment where I'm like, holy shit, like this works. Like number 2 out of 20,000 agents, like, wow. And he's like, Katie, stop it. Be number 1. So that's the next year I was like, I'll be number 1. I'm going to suck it up. If they ask me to speak, I will just deal with it then. And so I started dreaming, and was it Paulo? Cora. Paulo.
Cora was 19, Paula was 21. Yeah.
So Paulo, again, we have 3 kids, so my timeline is based on kids. But I did this talk, and with Lucas, when I would nurse him, I was a new mom. I'd be on my phone, wasting time, looking at social media, shopping on Amazon, just wasting time. And for this talk, I researched how much time a nursing mom spends nursing. It's a full-time job. It's 19,000 hours a year. 1900, sorry.
A year.
On your
right?
phone, right? I was on my phone wasting that time. But with Cora and Paulo, my 2 and 3 child, Cora was when I ended up being number 2, and Paulo was when number 1. And I switched it. I never had my phone near me, and I would just sit there and use those hours to dream, to pre-flight, to think, how am I going to do this? How much do we need? And things just happened when I would take that intentional time to just sit there and let my mind go free. And I attribute that success to that time, to that writing it down and sharing with my friends, like, guys, I'm going to be number 1. Some people would laugh. Others would just totally be on board and just like, yes, represent us. Do it, Katie. And like, just had my back. And that, it's nothing. I mean, the work was there. Like, I would work hard. It wasn't just like, I'm going to dream it and it happened. Like, I worked my ass off. We worked super hard. But it was that intentional thinking and dreaming and planning. And when you do that, you just hear opportunities. Ideas would just come up of like, team, let's do this. And we'd go with it. And that's what happened. So now that mindset goes into anything we dream of, anything that we plan.
Right.
And we learned the pre-flight Providence bit from you, from your classes, from coming to listen to you talk and using analogies of a pilot. And my dad used that too. It was if we were so as a pilot, he would just sit in his easy chair, and he'd have his flight chart. He'd have his I'm kind of rusty on the terms, but he'd have every book that he needed to get to where he needed to go. The IFR, radio chatter, frequencies, the direction of the airport, the ILR, the approach, where you come in at. And he'd never flown there before, but he had to live the flight, the landing, everything. Factor in the weather, factor in everything. And so I'd go into the living room and I'd see Dad just kind of sitting there. He's not sleeping. He might be praying, but he's got his eyes closed and his head's back. And I'd say, Pop, where are you flying to? I've never been to Anatuvik Pass, and I got to fly Navajo in there tomorrow. Got a full load. Weight and balance is already checked. Winds are supposed to be from the east. It's a north-south runway, so I got a crosswind. Yeah, I think I got it though. And that was his pre-flight, and he'd have it all mapped out. And then I was raised with that pre-flight mentality. And then when you reiterated in your real estate and entrepreneurial classes, and Katie and I putting it to use in just life, and a lot of that what we kept hearing over the years of going to all these great seminars and great speakers, doing well in State Farm comes with a lot of benefits, and one of them is you get to go to these great conventions, and you've got Spanx, what's the gal's name?
Oh, my person that I love, Sarah Blakely. She's the owner and designer and CEO of Spanx, and we heard her speak, and I just love her.
So she
is
she's a billionaire. and she developed these spandex undergarments for women, and she would stand outside of Macy's and hustle them and
Right.
get measurements and then send them to the ladies. And anyway, she just exploded. But we kept hearing all these great speakers, and the Malcolm Gladwell, like just an
Right.
amazing, bright mind.
Yeah.
But the continuity of the message from every one of the successful people that we've learned from, you included, is you must make time for meditation, prayer, openness to providence. What is the next step that I don't know that I must take with confidence, with trust? You got to kind of fall backwards into the arms of Christ and be able to take the risk that it takes to be who you're supposed to be, not who you think you are. And I think I'm really proud of Katie in that respect. The story of the seagulls, I mean, these gals are training and dreaming and wanting to be something for years, and she gets talked into it the day before, and the talent that it takes and the capacity that it takes. But really, I'm just proud of her for taking the leap of faith, like trusting who she might be.
Right.
And with State Farm, it was the same way. But
To add on what you're saying, though, is to take that leap, but you need to know what you want.
yeah,
I think in all of this and all of the speakers that we hear, you have to know exactly what you want, and you cannot be afraid to dream big. Like from Exotic is, like a couple thousand people make it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To number one, like that's a huge jump, and
Right.
why not? But people don't think like that.
Right.
So why would you not? Why would you not put it out there? Because your brain is smart enough to figure out how to get there if you want it bad enough. Like you're gonna figure it out.
There are two. Well, one quote that has been in my head forever, and I think started this thinking process for me about how critical this is. It's a dream lofty dreams, and as ye dream, so shall ye become. Your vision is the promise of what shall at last unveil itself. That's a Ruskin quote. And thinking on that deeply, this concept or this idea, this ism, as it were, the way I describe this is arrival before departure.
That's right.
It's this idea that we're there before we're there in order to get there. That he's already landed the plane.
Yeah.
He's been over the pass, landed it, opened the door. It's all done. And then the working backwards of that. I'm number one giving a speech. I'm nervous for the speech. What am I going to wear? All of the details of that. Who are the names of who's going to be there? Let me rehearse them. It's there it is. You've been there. Not just a picture on a refrigerator. You've viscerally been there. We can be there before we're there. Completely. 100%. Almost to where our mind doesn't know the difference. And it now says, well, now I have to construct the puzzle pieces to create the reality that's already been. It's almost a little weird, but it's how every high endeavor, I don't care if you study any area of life, the end has already been achieved. And it's believed. It's declared. And then it goes in motion, backwards.
So your question of what the secret sauce is for us and how we approach it, you just explained it. It's look at the goal, strip off every shiny factor of it, anything that's unbelievable about it, and humanize it.
Right.
Who is the agent that achieved that? Who did they talk to? Who did they hire?
Right.
What practices did
Profile
they employ?
them.
Yeah.
Right.
Just take away the cape.
Yep.
Superman had a cape. Take his cape off. Clark Kent Clark Kent was just a dude.
Right.
So it's like
Right.
Katie and I look at the reports, and it's like, okay, who's number one now? Well, they did $500,000 of insurance premium for achieving that goal. Well, how does that math out? How many days are there? We got 20 working days a month, so do the math. Divided by 12, how many policies do we need to sell? Looks like we need to average about $4,000 a year in premium for our major policies. And then maybe we hire the team to do the $100 a month policies and focus on that aspect. That adds up real fast to 500,000, and then it's achievable. And it takes the
reverse engineering.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just the laser focus.
Work it backwards,
Yeah.
and then it's like it comes down to, this is I hear this so completely. It's just DNA. It's the numbers behind the numbers.
Right.
It's like, oh, this is a goal. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's break it down. Let's take out all the slack. Let's this. Let's that. And this hour, this is what I've got to produce. Okay, how do I do that consistently?
That's right.
Okay, and you think on that. And I think another thing that just blows my mind by this is that I think it was 1,700 hours a year. Wow. There you are doing something that you love and you're passionate about and you're completely committed to. You're not going to say no to this. You're going to breastfeed this baby. Okay. All right. And I'm here I am. Okay. How do I utilize this time? Because if you don't plan for that, something will fill it. And how many people do you sit? I go to a lot of airports. Hell, I'll be at one Monday morning, right? And you look at any terminal waiting, head down, flipping screens. I've been on a moving sidewalk in Denver, going from all the way from one end to the other, and I sit there, I just don't move, and I stare at every gate waiting. And I count the number of people whose head is up. And in 40 gates, she might have a dozen people.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It's scary.
It's head down. Okay. Closing your eyes. Visualization. Declaration. Arrival before departure. And then here comes the way. The ideas, the brainstorming, the team get together. Okay, what about this? All right, let's try it. Let's throw that crab pot in the water and see if that works, right? We'll come back and check that in a week. That kind of mentality to reverse engineer this, but it doesn't start until you know where you're going, what you want. Arrival before departure. The meditation, prayer, clarity of minds, single-mindedness in a world of continuous partial attention. That was a quote by one of the original Microsoft 18, that we live in a world of continuous partial attention. High achievement is full attention, complete, focused attention. And I mean, to master that in a confusing world, wow. Tell me about practical living. You've got agencies here in the Northwest. You've got agency in Alaska. Are you setting up homes in both locations? Do you go back and forth? Do you divide and conquer? How does and then of course throw 3 kids into the mix and a marriage. How do you do it all?
We do set up homes in both places, and we're not quite there yet, but the ability to just leave one house and show up in another would be ideal, but we end up packing and repacking. Oh crap, I already have that here, and doubling up. I think what was really telling is I had this novel idea to go to Nordstrom and get a set of clothes for Alaska. And I bought pants and shirt and like 4 pairs of different color pants and 4 shirts, and Friday's casual, so jeans and I get to Alaska and I've got the same damn clothes sitting there in the closet, exactly the same clothes. that I bought at Nordstrom.
Same pants.
Same pants, same color,
exact.
same brand.
Well, you're consistent.
Oh my gosh. So that is not my strong suit. So hire to your weaknesses. But what I think we do a really good job as parents and as husband and wife and as business owners is being able to be in whatever location we are and being present for that team and present for that business, and not abandoning the business that is abandoned, that is without us. So trusting delegation, trusting that it's not going to, the house isn't going to burn down literally or figuratively if we're gone.
Right.
And so
Right.
what are the must-dos? When do I need to get on a jet and be in Alaska in 4 hours? What circumstance warrants that?
Right.
And
Right.
just really putting our marriage first and our children first, and their happiness and our happiness and the sanctity of the marriage first, and leading with that has allowed the business side of our world to come into play naturally without a lot of starvation from the other side. We're not perfect at it. I don't think we're there yet. I still need to date her and make sure she knows that I can speak her love language. So I'm an acts of service guy, but she needs quality conversation. And
Yeah, I think for us as a couple, we are constantly trying to fill each other's cup full. And that it's hard because our languages are so different. I thrive off of like this. Like I love conversation. Like after leaving today, I'm just on a high. Like I love it. And for him, he's acts of service, which I do, but and the physical touch, which I think I do, but I could do better. So as a couple, that's our main focus. And on the business side, it's the state farms we've systematized and processes so they all run the same. And team is probably it's the hardest. It's the struggle. It's finding good team and keeping them, and that's the hard part. The production and talking to clients is awesome, but it's the team. So with us, it's being together on the same page, but yet being opposites. He's the extrovert, I'm the introvert. He's the outdoorsman, I'm the city introvert. He's the hunter, I'm the ballerina. Like it's just we're so opposite, but we balance each other. And what's been really cool with our kids is like we don't let them watch TV on their phone. Like they don't know what video games are. Yeah, it's just we try to be disciplined with them, but the most important thing with them is just it's playing with them. It's being present. So wherever we are, I think that's what you were trying to say, is we are present in whatever we're doing. So 100%. When we are State Farm, it's 100% State Farm, and we work hard and then we're done. Then home, we are 100% with our kids. It's like we play, we get dirty, we're out biking, we're fishing, we're, like I just run around barefoot. Like I don't care, but we're just with them. It's a time, and then we try to instill what we learned growing up. We have quotes on our wall. Is it helpful? Is it kind? Try to fail at something every day. Like we want them just to grow and be surrounded by positive. We do this thing where every morning on our drive to school, it's what are you grateful for? And we all say our thing, and we most recently implemented what you learned at Moose Camp. If you want to share that.
My cousin Jim Hajdukovic, they ask what's your thorn today and what's your rose. So what's the rose in your life today and what's the thorn? And so we've kind of, because our kids were getting pretty repetitive on what they were grateful for, and just kind of before you even got it out of your mouth, they'd say, "You guys and the cousins."
Well, Lucas now is, "You cousins, water, fish, and moose." I'm like, oh, okay. Cora's like, "Frozen, snow, and you and Mom and you and Paulo."
The process, that although it may seem repetitive, I really believe that the process, as they go into adulthood, it will naturally deepen. But the process, the we do this every day part is instilled. I think
Leading with gratitude.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. The working it out. The I you hear a lot about like work-life balance, as if they all should sort of equal out. And I've always struggled with that, that I think that they're all one and the same, but there is an alignment of priority. And I think that this is the great challenge, is that at least it's been my look that really stating clearly the priority and putting it in the right order and holding true that in real life this is the priority, that a relationship with God is a priority. You two were here before kids. This is a priority, right? Parenting is a priority. Work is a priority, and to just be checking always that the alignment and the success, the connection, really works from the priority of the top down. Everybody works it out their own way, and in an entrepreneurial world where you are creating the entire structure of everything, boy, it can be overwhelming. I feel like I fail at it way more than I feel like I have success with it. But a student of the game, for sure, for so many years of trying to do this well. It's the never-ending challenge. And throw other entrepreneurial ventures into the equation, right? And one is a little laundromat project on the side. A laundromat that, quite honestly, I mean, just looking at a picture, I've never seen one like it in my entire life. It's amazing. Talk to me about a Fairbanks real estate investment / business laundromat. I want you to walk through that little side project that would be a life project for most people. Talk to me about that.
So, my mom and I were walking in downtown Fairbanks in 2018, and I walked by the laundromat that I had known for my whole life, and my mom had known for her whole life. It was the laundromat in Fairbanks, and
The one.
So it's called Coin King.
Coin King.
Coin King, yep.
Mm-hmm.
And it had boards on the windows, and it was shuttered. And I said, "Holy smokes, when did this close?" And she said, "Yeah, they closed shop this February, and Sharon had just had enough, and she's done." So, wow, that'd be awesome to build the next Coin King. And she goes, "You should call her." And she had sold it to a real estate developer that actually just did a fair trade with her because it was contaminated land, and he just wanted it for some leverage with his objective with the city. So I was this close to buying that and getting full release of liability from DEC and EPA as long as I let them on the land to clean it up, and they'd give me a clean bill of health. And I had the DOT right-of-way, head of right-of-ways, sitting down looking at the plans for a roundabout that was going to take out this building. And I said, "Well, how much of the building do you need?" He goes, "Oh, it's just green space." It's like, "Well, how much green space do you need?" "I think it's about 8 inches. I said, "Buddy, I'll give you that 8 inches. I said, I'll give you that whole corner of the building. I'll make it nice. You can round out the edge of the whatever you want." There's about a 30-second pause, and I hear a lot of typing on the other side. No, we're not going to do that. I said, "This is really good for Fairbanks. We don't have a laundromat. I will make a nice laundromat there, and I've already dealt with DEC, EPA, the contamination problems out the window. It's permitted. It's ready to go. I'm even going to get free heat here from the city because they've got steam coming through the ground right here. So this is a brilliant play for Fairbanks, and you could be a hero here." Nope. Done. Dream crushed, right? So then I put eyes on an old Pizza Hut building, and I tracked down the owner of that building, Indian guy that owned 32 Pizza Huts in Alaska. And he had just unloaded all the real estate and all the franchise except for this one or two lots that he had left. So money meant nothing to this guy. So I'm going full Greg Pinneo on this guy, finding his interests, finding his talents, finding his hobbies, and just...
I'm not even going to ask you to explain that, but go ahead. I'm going full Greg Pinneo.
In a very charming way.
In a charming way.
So
Thank you.
I had a purchase and sale agreement to close on this Pizza Hut. Then COVID hit. Pandemic. The world shuts down. So I had an $800,000 accepted offer. We're supposed to close in April, and March is when everything hit the fan with everyone losing their minds.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, I don't think this property's worth $800,000 anymore. He said, me neither, but I'll find the $800,000 eventually, and I don't need to sell it now. So take it or leave it. And in the meantime, I had paired with Dexter, which is a
Top of the line.
top of the line. Think of Kia versus Mercedes. They're the Mercedes
I see. Of equipment.
Mm-hmm. Cat versus Kubota.
Right.
You buy the Cat for the quality, and the weight of the machine is just, they're like 10 times the actual physical weight.
Right.
Because they're made of steel, and they're a 30-year machine. So
Right.
anyway, I had a contract in 2018 to buy $800,000 worth of laundry equipment. Then the deal falls through. Then COVID happens, it all. So I'm extending these options to buy with Dexter while I'm sweating out the pandemic and moving through finding a location. Meanwhile, Katie's over here. What are you doing? We're gonna build a laundromat in Fairbanks. She's like,
we've committed to $800,000 worth of machines. We just need a place to put them.
right. So the
Arrival before departure.
That's
So
right.
stressful.
So Fairbanks is extreme. Like, this is latitude 64, really cold. So 40 below air. When you think of a laundromat, you have to think of a blow dryer. So if you put your hand on the back of a blow dryer, it doesn't function. So you got 50 plus dryers that are sucking a lot of cubic feet a minute of air from the outside to make up for the air that they need to push through the dryer.
You almost need a preheater.
Yeah, so 40 below air at 40,000 cubic feet a minute means a lot of BTUs have to be spent to preheat it to dry the clothes, because to get 40 below air to 120 degree air is very expensive. And you're either going to throw money at it and lose money, or back into the equation and say, okay, how do I get my air heated? So we this is a very important part of this subject. So I started collecting pop cans in our detached garage, and by starting to collect pop cans, I mean, imagine
we couldn't fit the cars.
Imagine
in
this
the garage.
plane is pop cans. I'm talking, you got a lot of aluminum here.
Yeah.
But I had 6 feet of pop cans piled in a 2.5 car garage. Like, couldn't fit any more pop cans. And this is in the middle of winter, 3 years before the project ever turned a profit, or a piece of clothing got washed. And so she's going, what are you doing with all these pop cans? I go, it's to preheat the air. I got to get the air. And she's like, okay, sweetie, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to trust you. And I said, I know a guy who knows a guy who built a laundromat 40 years ago in North Pole. His name's Ross. Super nice. I'm going to breakfast with him. He's told me to collect pop cans. So I talked to Bernie Carl. Bernie owns a recycling plant. I'm getting all the good pop cans that Bernie has. And if I don't stay on it, these pop cans get crushed, and then I'm screwed. And then by the time we need to open, how many pop cans do you need? I think like maybe 25, 30,000, because I need 16,000 good pop cans that are not blemished. So mad scientists here collecting dirty pop cans, putting offers on properties, putting offers on equipment, and trying to get to the end game through the pandemic, through deals falling through. I kept pushing this offer out with Dexter. Fast forward to 2022, in April, we put an accepted offer on this property next to Starbucks next to like O'Reilly's Auto Parts. It kind of met the demographic. You got the high-end Starbucks customer, and you got the blue-collar O'Reilly guy. And this is on a Wednesday, and Sunday rolls around, and my contractor and planned to be business partner said, Jimmy, I just got an email from a guy that wants to build a 7,000 square foot laundromat over on the other side of town. And I mean, talk about gut punch. I'm thinking, this is done. Done deal. You can't have 2 laundromats in a town of 100,000 of this magnitude. Right. And so all of a sudden, our Asian friend here to my right realizes that this might be a good business idea. And she goes, somebody else wants to build? No, somebody else had your idea?
Yeah. You're not a little competitive, are you?
Wait a minute. So
we're going to crush him like a pop can, Jim.
It's actually a good business idea? And I'm like, baby, it is really good. And look at his plans, and look what he's going to do. And looks a lot like what we're planning on doing, but bigger. And she's like, I'm sorry. And anyway, she goes, call him. What would hurt in calling the guy? I've never met this guy. So I call him. I say, hey.
And Fairbanks is a small town.
Right.
Everybody knows everybody.
Right.
Like, you just, yeah.
So I call him. I say, hey, I'm Jim. I'm looking at building a laundromat, and I'm dealing with Seth Church. It looks like you reached out to him for him to maybe build a laundromat for you. What's your plan? And he's like, well, yeah, we've been dreaming on this for 3 or 4 years since Coin King closed, and I've got a piece of property over by Walmart, Fred Meyer, Lowe's. It's right in the heart of like way better location. And I said, well, it sounds like you beat me to the punch, and I've been dreaming on this too, but I've got a piece of property over on the other side of town by Starbucks, by O'Reilly's, and what are you doing for equipment? He's like, well, I'm a year and a half out on that. And I was like, oh, really? Well, I'm 6 months
mine
out.
have been ready to ship for a year.
They're going to be here in December. Like, they are ready to ship, and I've had an order since 2018. And there's a long pause, and I said, I don't want to be your competitor, and I don't think you want to be mine. And he said, option 1, I buy you out and make you whole. Option 2, I pay for everything, and you're my tenant, and you just run the operation. Or option 3, we partner. And I said, I don't like any of those options, but I especially don't like A and B, so let's go with option 3. And he said, yeah, I just need to be a minority partner, and I just know that this is needed in our town. So a would-be competitor became our partner and one of our closest friends. And so now the contractor and Peter's the other guy, and Katie and I are all partners on this laundromat. And so we built a 13,000 square foot building, and we have 3,500 square feet that's tenant space, and we'll hopefully put a restaurant there, but we're wanting to.
So about 10,000 feet for a laundromat.
Yes. And what the pop cans are is how it works. You need to be profitable at any temperature, and so we basically made a heat exchanger out of the pop cans. And so if you were to spin that same sheet metal and make it a tube and bevel the tube at each end and make it just right for the air to flow over and slow down the heat to transfer from hot to cold, because inside the can you got the 40 below air or 20 degree air or whatever the outside air is, and they're going over each other, and that transfer of the heat from the dryers to the makeup air is what makes or breaks the business, and which was my opinion from the beginning after talking to Ross.
Did Ross in his design have something similar?
He did. He built it 40 years ago, and he went to the trade show for it's called the laundry I forget what it's called. Laundry show.
Yeah.
Anyway, he goes and he talks to all these PhDs and mechanical and engineers about this heat exchanger made out of pop cans, and they thought he was crazy. Well, he put a 30% utility costs down to 10%, and we're doing the same thing 40 years later.
The partner that you've partnered with in his design for his, did he have anything like this on it?
No. He was accepting the fact that he'd have to charge a lot more and just accept a smaller profit and provide a much needed supply of the town doesn't have a laundromat, so it's like
Right.
the town needs it, and he is he's got several businesses, but his he's an ESOP guy. He's basically profit's not driving his motivation. It's really
To serve the community.
to serve the community and to serve his role in God's will. And he's a beautiful man, like just a really cool guy.
I love it. I love it.
And he trusted my vision, and they call me the hammer in our partnership because I go and get stuff done. But that was, again, yin and yang. We're on the disc profile, he's a high C, and I'm a really high D. Didn't know. But anyway.
So this laundromat, the name of it, the website, I want it thrown out here because I have to tell you, when I saw the pictures of just as you were ready to open, I did a double take. I had to cut and paste it and blow it up just so I could see if I was seeing for real.
Right.
I've never seen anything like this.
So
how many machines in this thing?
There's a 130-foot, 10-foot tunnel that's 8 feet wide, and the beauty of this thing is the makeup air. So you've got a solar box on the back of the building that is getting hit with the southern sun at whatever temperature, but it's preheating that air, which is getting pulled into the fresh air side of the tunnel. And meanwhile, 52 dryers are blowing 130-degree exhaust air on the other side of this tunnel. And there's fans that are sucking the hot air across the radiator, which is tempering water. So you've got 38-degree water that's now 150-degree water before it even goes into the preheating of the water tank. So the old model is heating water from 38 degrees to 130 degrees, and the old model is heating cold air to hot air and spending a ton of money on doing that.
Right.
So we've got 68 washers. We can wash and dry 3,000 pounds of laundry an hour.
Do you know what jumps off the page here, and it's with both of you in everything you do, is that the depth of competence and knowledge on anything you endeavor. It could be dance, it could be a laundromat, but if you're going to do it, you're going to know it. You're going to have mastery over it. You're going to have thought it through. You could teach it. You've done it, obviously. Mastery is rarely seen anymore. People who say, no, I'm going to know this better than anybody on the planet. I'm going to be a number one. I'm going to take this to the highest level, to create something that is so well thought out in detail, and I'm going to tell you why this works. I mean, it's like talking to Einstein. There's absolute particulars in the engineering of this, and therefore it's done to the highest level. To me, that mastery is a commitment. Are we going to kind of do it? Are we going to kind of know it? You know, your dad in his flying, I'm going to know this so well. It's not a kind of a pilot. That's not how you want to approach life. Yeah. Dancing with Baryshnikov is not kind of doing dance. There's no higher level than that. And I think that is a decision. What do you want to be really competent at? And so this is amazing. What is the website of this laundromat? Just so people can look at a picture of this thing.
It's called Fairbanks Laundry, and you can find us on Facebook. Fairbanks Laundry.
Fairbanks Laundry. Yeah. And your State Farm worlds. One thing I heard, and I mean, Katie, you said it, that team members, finding team members that are truly committed to what you're doing and growth and learning and becoming successful themselves with this State Farm model that you are a part of. team members. Hard to find, but I've got to believe that as people listen to this, they're going to go, oh my God, I would love to work with these people. And so State Farm in Seattle and Kirkland, right, and in Fairbanks, right, Jim and Katie Kelly, look them up, find them. I mean, if I were a young entrepreneur saying, wow, this sounds really interesting, I'd be setting up a meeting so fast it'd make your head spin. I truly mean it. I mean, I'm thinking I might go into State Farm right now and just become a fledgling young agent and learn. Amazing, incredible, and so multifaceted. I think that the other aspect, purposed to not put on an outline. I know now you're scared because you always know me. I have something up my sleeve that no one anticipates, but I believe that this extraordinary recipe, that when you see extraordinary, part of the recipe that goes into creating extraordinary is navigating extreme difficulty, challenge, some adversity has come down the pike, and it has caused you to go to a place. And although I only know of one story between you, I know there's probably more, but Jim, my love of aviation and your love of aviation has gotten involved in a discussion around the tragedy of your father's passing at a way too young age. How old was your dad when he had a plane crash?
74.
And a young 74 that was just loving life and flying planes. And you being his only son, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I get choked. But we've talked a lot about this, and how do you when you lose somebody that you're so close to like that you so admire? I've had to do it. How do you ride on from that? What is it that gets you through something like that? How do you frame that today in your life?
I realized real quick, it started with, we knew he crashed, and we knew he was likely not in good physical shape. So just the thought of someone dying in a plane crash is it sucks. Mm-hmm. And it was 20 below zero, and he was found by a Chinook helicopter that heard the beacon going off the emergency locator device. So knowing that he was out there alone, and just as a group of men who had just lost their father-in-law and me losing my dad, wanting to just rally out there and go get the body and get him out of there was the first hard decision I had to make, because I know that group, my cousins, my brother-in-laws, my nephews, would have rallied behind me, and we would have been on snowmobiles and gotten him, and we'd have been there that day. Mm-hmm. But just taking a deep breath and realizing that our bodies are just vehicles, just vessels, and Dad wasn't there was, I mean, that's easy to say when you're pre-flighting losing someone, like what if scenarios. Okay, his body's he's gone, he's not there anymore. But actually living that and making the decision as his son, like, no guys, this is we can't do that. We put ourselves at risk, and we just can't. So I guess what I'm saying is knowing that now is my time. Dad's time ended that day, and I can't dwell on what was or what should have been or what could be or the tragedy of it, but more so live and honor the life he lived and carry on his intentions through my life, because now I still have to be husband and father and son and brother and uncle and nephew and all my roles, business owner. And just because he died that day doesn't mean that that wasn't a day that the Lord had made, and that we still were called to rejoice and be glad in it. That was the hardest one to swallow. Humbling to swallow, but also kind of, it was a good gut check, because it's like, okay, that does suck. It's the worst thing that I've had to deal with, but what a blessing that that's the worst thing I've ever dealt with. And to know that we are still called to joy in a time of tragedy was my big lesson.
Well, and there's that grounded perspective on how do you see the world? How do you see this time we have on earth? You know, what is that compared to eternity?
Yeah.
And so I appreciate you sharing that. And there's a humility that both of you just carry everywhere you go. It is, you know, I have this deep ism that arrogance repels and humility attracts, and your humility in the way you approach life. People tend to think, you know, humble as being sort of timid and non-proactive and things like this. Oh, it's anything but that. You know, some of the greatest, most hard-driving people in the world, they're humble. And I think of our last dinner together in Las Vegas with General Ronald Fogelman. You know, I mean, you bought that dinner, and it was an amazing dinner. And but you know, the 15th Chief of Staff, you know, flown everything with wings, Aviation Hall of Fame. I mean, how much more accomplished can one person be? But what a humble, amazing conversation we all had with him that night at this incredible restaurant. At the end of it, we all have to ask the question, you know, here was our journey, right? And I'm going to be serving, you know, Corona at your funeral, or you're going to be serving it at mine, right? We don't know who goes first, right? But there'll be people there. There'll be a gathering. At your gathering, who's going to gather, and what are they going to say?
I did this once in a business class. Wrote my own obituary. Yeah, it's a good practice. I'm working towards this. I hope I don't die today or tomorrow, because I still have a lot of work. But what I would hope that that Katie would say is that I lived my best life, and I loved her as best as I could, and that the kids say that about me, and that my sisters and nieces and nephews say that. Brother-in-laws and cousins and aunts and uncles, like just my close family that have watched me since I was a boy, and now my friends like you that have known me as a man, can talk about different memories and have correlations of who I am come to surface in those conversations, and have it bring a little bit of joy and maybe drive them through the tragedy, like my dad's memory did for me, which was, one, he died doing something he loved, and every flight he took, with zero cliche intended, he said, if I go down, I went down smiling. And he said that to my mom that day. And he said it on every flight I ever saw him take. And we'd kind of laugh it off as he fired up the engine.
It's his signature.
Yeah.
Right.
He'd
right.
like, clear, If I go down, I went down smiling. Click.
Right.
Right. You just take off. So
Right.
it was a reality we all accepted and we all lived with, and just letting me go, because when I go, I am okay. I don't want to I live with any regrets or with any should haves or would haves or could haves, but live every life as if it's the next chapter that I'm supposed to live, because I'd probably be sitting in that pool of sadness on the life that I had with my dad, but it was just a chapter in this great book that I've got to push forward to the next one.
Katie, what about you?
I would want my funeral to be a dance party. Just a party. I want them to remember and laugh, and the stories to be like, she brought the best out of me, or she drugged me to that dance class and I had no idea what I was doing, or we tried this new thing together and it was so fun, just living each day and taking risks. Like, just try it. We're in this thing where I've been dancing for 30 plus years, and the kids are doing martial arts. So they're doing Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I'm sitting there watching them. Like, he's boxing. Like, I should try this. I'm trying Muay Thai now. Like, it's just, like, why not? Why not just try something
Why
new?
sit and watch them?
Yeah, like, why not go and start punching and kicking? And my legs are just bruised, like something, like just awful. It's so I just joy. Like, I'd want people to remember me as just this person that wasn't afraid to try things and brought people along with her, and just fun. And then I said, if I go first, I'm going to come back and haunt him as a ghost.
The word we started with was excellent, and I think what you just said puts a bow on this is an excellent life. If that plane can land that way and it's done with full intention and full heart and full effort, that's a life lived in an excellent way, a purposeful, intentional way, and the ism, the ism that speaks on that, wealth, and I mean wealth in every corner of life. Wealth in your health, in your happiness, in your businesses, in your relationships, and all wealth. That wealth is on point. Wealth is on point. Mediocre wanders, and I believe that, and I know, I just know that as people absorb this, I think they're going to listen to it again and again and again. There's so many personal challenges that you've confronted yourself. That's the only way we can have an impact on anyone else, is if we've gone to that door and opened it ourselves. And you have. And that gives other people permission and courage to try the same. And you're doing that is what is the entree to people saying, hey, okay, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to try this. I'm venturing. I'm going to consider what the door I've shut. I'm going to now consider it open with a new mind. Wow. I really believe that this is going to have a huge impact. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for spending time in this podcast, and as always, you'll join me in just thanking people that are watching, and God bless you till the next time we're here.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.